Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Liz with Ghastly Cards. I am fresh off our Instagram live where we announced today the very first giveaway winner for our Ghastly Cards page. John and I were really excited to give away a Japanese booster box of Cyber Judge to one of our followers over there. But today I did want to just recap the Charizard 7-star Tera Raid and Pokemon Violet. If you've caught my other videos, we walked through Venusaur and Blastoise, and I know that we're on the very last day of Charizard, so by the time I get this video out, it might be over, but I wanted to bring you some learnings from a beginner's point of view. If you've been following the channel for a minute, you know I'm walking through Pokemon Violet for the first time and kind of learning along with you guys. So I wanted to review a successful build strategy that I borrowed from Pokemon Cast. If you caught the Venusaur video, I tried and sort of failed at one of his previous builds for Venusaur, but this time we really nailed it, and I'm so excited because throughout this whole Tera Raid event in the month of March, I've learned a little bit more along the way about Tera Raids from a beginner's perspective, things like stats and abilities and items that really make your Tera Raids go a lot more smoothly. So today I'm gonna go through the Sylveon strategy build that I borrowed off of Steve in Pokemon Cast. So let's get into it. So today I'm going to be highlighting Sylveon of Pokemon Cast's different options. He's got, I think, 4 total over on his Instagram and his YouTube channel. Sylveon is where I really focused on this time around. I already had a Sylveon. I actually had a couple of Sylveons. Sylveon is pretty present in Pokemon Violet in various areas. So I actually had a few different options to choose from, all ranging around level 50 when I caught them. So hopefully if you are at a beginner level or, you know, kind of surface level Pokemon Violet trainer, you may already have a Sylveon. If not, I'm gonna try to put right here the different areas where you can find Sylveon in your game. I recommend leveling up one of your Pokemon, going and catching Sylveon to kind of get this started. Now, with Charizard's Tera type being flying, it's going to be really important for you to make sure that all of your fairy type attacks with Sylveon are actually boosted as much as they possibly can be. The best way to do that and really easy kind of low-hanging fruit way to amplify all of your fairy attacks is to make sure that your Sylveon has the ability of Pixelate. So if you look at this level 52 Sylveon that I have, I'm going to be using this one for my Tera Raid. It already had Cute Charm as its ability, which means the Pokemon may infatuate attackers that make direct contact with it. I'm sure that's good in other scenarios, but for this flying Tera type Charizard, you're actually going to want to follow the strategy and change that to Pixelate. And the best way that you're going to be able to do that is by using an ability patch. If you go ahead and choose ability patch, it's going to change the regular ability of a Pokemon to a rarer ability. So go ahead and apply that to your Sylveon. So Pixelate actually causes all normal type attacking moves used by the Pokemon to become fairy type attacks, and it increases their power by 20%. Okay, so this next part is gonna be a little bit tricky. If you haven't spent time playing the Ogre Ousting in Kitakami, you're actually going to have to fly back to Kitakami for this next portion, and that is attaching a fairy feather to your Sylveon. Now, transparently, I kind of breezed over Ogre Ousting my first time through. I thought it was just kind of like a fun little side game that you could do as part of the DLC. This is a really hard mini game. You basically have to drive around and hit different balloons, which give you berries, and then you bring the berries back to these boxes, all within a very small time limit. And as you go up in the levels, it gets a lot harder because you need more berries, more balloons in order to basically pass the level. So John and I actually spent a few hours playing Ogre Ousting, trying to get up to the normal level. You'll see there's easy, normal, and hard. I have no idea who's playing this on hard because the normal level, even just getting through it, was extremely difficult. But if you're looking to get Fairy Feather as part of your build, you're going to have to defeat all 6 stages of normal. And then when you go to exit the game, the gift that the person behind the counter at the Ogre Ousting game area gives you a fairy feather, and that's ultimately your goal here in order to give that to Sylveon. So the fairy feather is an item that boosts the power of fairy type moves by 20%. So if you think about it, we've changed our ability to pixelate, which changes our normal type moves to fairy. And then we're also adding a fairy feather, which boosts fairy type moves by 20%. So this is going to make your Sylveon so much more stronger as you go into fight the 7-star Tera Raid. So these are the 2 main steps that I took before I headed into my Tera Raid, and it made a huge difference once I got there. Once you have the fairy feather and you've changed your ability to pixelate, now it's time to make sure we level up before we head into the 7-star Tera Raid. If you've seen my other videos, it's pretty straightforward here. You're gonna go into your bag. I use experience candies to level up the Pokemon, rare candies, and then you can really add like any other helpful items out of your bag that would amplify either your special attack, your defense, or your attack moves. So now we've handled adding all of the necessary items to Sylveon. We've leveled up Sylveon to level 100. We've kind of taken care of those bases. Now what we need to do is change the attack moves that Sylveon has so that they match Pokemon Cast strategy, and you'll see why in a minute. So as we look at the strategy provided by Pokemon Cast, you can see Hyper Beam, Draining Kiss, Fake Tears, and Calm Mind. These are all going to be really helpful in the Tera Raid. I actually ended up using all of them. Again, one of the things that we picked up in the last Tera Raid is that your best offense is a good defense. So definitely don't skip over using Fake Tears and Calm Mind, because this is going to be extremely important as you go into battling Charizard. Charizard is very attack heavy, so you're gonna wanna make sure that you're upping your own special defense and special attack moves, and also simultaneously trying to lower some of the defense that Charizard has to make it easier for those like really heavy hits to get the Tera Raid down before time runs out. So looking at the Sylveon I already have, you can see I have Moonblast, Calm Mind, Yawn, and Shadow Ball currently in Sylveon's attacks. So we're good on the Calm Mind, but we definitely had to adjust the 3 other attacks here. First thing I was gonna do is swap out Moonblast with Draining Kiss. And Draining Kiss is a great attack that basically inflicts damage on Charizard, but also restores that amount of damage to your health points. That is going to be so important as you go into fight Charizard, because it's going to, like I said, he's very attack heavy, so you're gonna really need to pay attention to winning back your hit points. So as you can see, I already have Calm Mind. It's going to let me know that Sylveon already has that. So the next one to take a look at is actually going to be Hyper Beam. So Hyper Beam is obviously your heaviest hitting attack move. The user can't move on the next turn, so that's the only downfall. Sylveon's going to have to recharge after we use Hyper Beam, but it's such a strong attack. It's 150 power, so that's really going to be that normal type attack move that's now turned into fairy type thanks to our Pixelate ability that we attached earlier on to Sylveon. So again, even though this is a normal type attack, as we're looking at it right here as a TM, when Sylveon uses it, it's going to actually become a fairy type attack, and it's also going to be 20% more powerful as a result of being a Pixelate ability within Sylveon. And then the last attack that we're gonna have to swap out for Shadow Ball is going to be Fake Tears. So Fake Tears allows the user to essentially cry to fluster the target. It harshly lowers the target's special defense stat, which is going to be, again, really important for Charizard because Charizard is going to be heavy hitting with his attacks. So as much as we can lower the defense of Charizard, the better Hyper Beam is going to be effective, Draining Kiss is going to be effective. So as we're pushing on with some of those heavier attacks, we're also trying to lower some of the special defense to make it a lot easier to ultimately defeat Charizard. Okay, all of our homework is done. So as you can see, we've leveled up Sylveon, we've added those crucial items, and we've also swapped out all of the attack moves to align perfectly with Pokemon Cast strategy. The last area that I took a look at that I really don't pay attention to, well, I guess now I do after knowing what I know about Tera Raids, is looking at this hexagon here. You can see all of the areas that we're looking at are actually high enough. So Pokemon Cast Strategy wanted 252 HP, 228 special attack. So Sylveon definitely hits the mark on all of those. We're rocking 331 for hit points, 258 for our special attack, 266 for special defense. And then the others are a little bit lower, but I honestly think it's our special attack and our special defense, which are going to be our most helpful in this Tera Raid. I cannot believe I actually fully built out somebody else's Tera Raid build, and it took a long time because of the Ogre ousting, but I swear it's worth it. As you go into your 7-star Tera Raid with Charizard, all of these things are actually going to impact your success in ultimately catching Charizard. So for this first Tera Raid, I actually hadn't watched through like how everything was working ahead of time, but right out of the gate, Charizard is going to use Overheat. I have no idea how he chooses which Pokemon of the 4 he aims this attack at. So fingers crossed, if you're a beginner kind of going into this, Charizard doesn't choose you for Overheat. Okay, so before you worry about any forward attacks against Charizard, what you're going to want to do is actually build up your own defense and try to lower Charizard's defense. It sounds kind of counterintuitive because the clock is ticking, but you do have a little bit of time before Charizard terastallizes, so you can use Calm Mind and Fake Tears in order to level out the playing field a little bit and make it easier to land good hits on Charizard. I used Fake Tears first, and I noticed a lot of other people who use Sylveon were using this attack. So if you can get a couple of rounds of Fake Tears in right out of the gate and then chase them with Calm Mind, you're gonna really kind of like manipulate some of the stats and make it easier to land effective hits against Charizard, as well as protect your own HP so that you don't faint too quickly early on. So you can see I'm using a bunch of Calm Mind in the beginning. That's not only going to raise my special attack, but also my special defense, which is going to be important for longevity and HP so that I don't faint right out of the gate. And I just really started to use a couple of those to kind of buffer this intro before jumping into Draining Kiss. So Draining Kiss, I think, is so crucial because you can see it hits and attacks Charizard as well as restoring your HP fully. So it's going to be really helpful, especially when Charizard terastallizes, when he uses Sunny Day later on, which is going to make his attack like crazy. Any chance that you get to raise your HP after you attack Charizard is ultimately what's going to lead you to victory. After I used a lot of Draining Kiss, Calm Mind, really got my special attack up and ready to go, it was time to use Hyper Beam. Again, Draining Kiss is going to be your best friend in this battle because it's going to give you back HP, especially when he pulls out Sunny Day, as I mentioned. This is going to make his attacks a lot stronger on you. So now that you're terastallized, you can go ahead and start firing off those Hyper Beams directly to Charizard. One really cool thing about Sylveon as well, when Charizard goes to use Tera Blast on you, which is typically a very powerful attack, Tera Blast does not affect Sylveon. All right, so the very last attack in the 7-star Tera Raid against Charizard actually blew my mind. So after taking a little bit of a hit on Fire Blast, I fired back Hyper Beam. We completely drained Charizard's HP just in that one hit. Not only did it wipe through the rest of his defense wall that he had up, but actually completely took out Charizard. So at this point, I was just in shock. I didn't realize Sylveon would be such a powerful option for this Tera Raid. I'm so glad that I chose it. So just like Venusaur and Blastoise, Charizard is going to drop Herba Mystica when you defeat him. And I just repeated this process. Like I said, I've played through this probably 5, 6, maybe 7 times. Since I figured out that Sylveon would work. It could be anywhere from 1 piece of Herba Mystica to 3, depending on how fast you get through the Tera Raid and how much time is left. So usually this is the part in the video where I tell you this didn't work and I have to find out other ways to defeat Charizard, but truthfully, Sylveon worked so well in this scenario that I just ended up using Sylveon for the rest of my Tera Raids. I know we are on the very last day of catching Charizard, and by the time I get this video out, I'm sure it'll be over, but just wanted to share a couple of the intro steps I took in order to make this build work. If you're a beginner in Pokemon Violet or Scarlet, some things like the ability patch and the different like fairy feather items kind of slipped under the radar for me. Again, we're learning more about items here on this channel. We're learning more about the abilities and how they affect our stats, all of that good stuff. And this was like probably the best case scenario where I was able to take Pokemon Cast's build and put it into use in Pokemon Violet with success. So if you have stuck around for Venusaur, Blastoise, and now Charizard, thank you so much. Make sure you leave a like on this video and maybe throw us a subscribe. I put out videos pretty much every week right now, as well as streaming on Fridays for our Friday nights in Paldea. It's super fun. And yeah, I hope you got Charizard throughout this Tera Raid event. I hope you were able to farm some of that Herba Mystica if that's your goal. And I hope you enjoyed this tiny little beginner tutorial. And I will catch you on the next one. See ya.